This episode of the Council of the First Ones was recorded on March 6th, 2021.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Council of the First Ones. I'm your host, Kelly. Joining me is Dave from Adult Collector. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Kelly, and hey, Shawn. Another wonderful week, and lots and lots of He-Man news to cover. This is looking pretty promising.
And of course, our friend Shawn is also joining us. How are you doing, Shawn?
Hey everybody, I'm buckled in for this because we haven't had this amount of He-Man news thrown at us in the span of 2 weeks for quite a while. So this is going to be fun, wall to wall. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a little peek at what could be coming out in August, courtesy of a special little, I believe it was stockholders meeting with their analysis, where we got two pictures of upcoming toys. I'm sure you guys saw those online too, of the Masterverse and the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Netflix other series.
Yeah, it was pretty confusing at first, and I had to delete a few posts, before as soon as I realized what was going on. I was seeing the pictures side by side, and the colors were very similar. The look of the images was very similar. And so at first I thought, okay, so are these the toys for the other Netflix series? But no, what it actually is we've got reveals of 3 figures from the Masterverse, the evolution of He-Man toy line that Mattel is coming up with. Those are deluxe 7-inch scale figures, very similar to classics. And the first wave, at least, is going to be based on designs from Kevin Smith's new Masters of the Universe Revelation animated series for Netflix. And separate from that, we had the image showing us a design of He-Man and Battle Cat as they will appear in the other Netflix series called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, the way it looked, it was hard to tell if it was a toy or a prototype drawing that they're going to use for a toy.
Oh, the picture of the 3 figures?
No, I think she means the initial image.
The He-Man and Battle Cat?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Where Battle Cat could use a couple of meals. He looks too skinny.
Yeah, he needs to bulk up.
No, He-Man does that to him because he keeps him fierce. He's going to eat people now. That's just all there is to it. He sees Beastman. Beastman is an hors d'oeuvre, and then Merman is his salmon lunch of the day. Yeah, it's going to be nuts. That show is going to be crazy. Kids are going to lose. This is what we've been waiting for. Kids are going to lose their fuzzy little minds watching this going, the cat's eating people. And the parents be like, that's nice. That's nice. Just like all the 80s movies when there's a kid like, oh, there's a monster at home. That's nice. Johnny or whatever. It's like, this one, Battle Cat's going to eat people. Panther's going to be trying to kill people. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. And they're going to be Transformers and Zoids, too.
Transformers is on Netflix already.
Yeah, that's true. No, like I've heard there's been the spectrum of responses to those images, and it was fun wading through those that week, because by the end of the week I literally was like, I don't want to look at Facebook right now. I'm done. Like there's been how many opinions, and From me personally, like I'll stick to the He-Man one since we're on that one first. I guess the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe one. It's a lot more of like a techno sci-fi look than the barbarian look that we're accustomed to, which I guess in my mind.
I was gonna say, besides the techno, with a little splash of 2000X.
Yes, yes. It felt almost like that would have been a variant of him in that line to me in that way. And Battle Cat was the most like drastic departure, but at the same time I looked at it and I'm like, it didn't bother me. It was detailed. It was crazy detailed, which is why I think the CGI is going to be great for that design. Because if you hand rendered that over and over, you'd have animators committing suicide because they'd be like, I don't want to draw this anymore. It's too many with spikes everywhere, spikes. But with CGI, I think it's going to look interesting. And I thought, He-Man had the 2000X, and then there were people complaining about, oh, his head's so small, but his body's so big. It's like, have you not watched The Incredibles? Like, have you not seen any movie where they've shown here's a very strong, durable individual? Usually their head is not in proportion to the rest of their body because they're showing this is how big the guy is. So it's showing He-Man's a big guy and stuff. And it looks technological based, and it looks sci-fi. And I'm just curious how much fantasy might be in that one. I think there's going to have to be if he's drawing him from the power of Grayskull to become He-Man. But it makes me open my mind to what are they going to do with this? Because that design is very different. How is the show going to be its own thing and be individual compared to Filmation, compared to 2000X, and now Revelation coming out before that, and then this show as well?
Well, you'll remember that the Netflix She-Ra cartoon series, they basically turned magic into technology, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and it's the Thor thing of magic is science that you haven't learned yet, or
right, and like the whole
yet, yes.
planet is, well, anyway, no spoilers, but it was very techy, and which it kind of drove me nuts. The fact that in the old cartoon it was technology versus magic. And in this new cartoon is everything's technology. We're living on the universe is a computer. We're living in technology. And so that's the first thing I think of when I look at this image that we're seeing of the new He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon. And that tiny head, oh my God, it just bothers me how small his head is the smallest thing on that entire image.
Yeah, I'm still going with the Mr. or I almost said Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic doesn't count here. Mr. Incredible look. He's got a little bit of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And that to me is like, that's kind of like the standard of anybody who's big, their head's going to be small. Even the Hulk and stuff. I mean, you see him usually in animated or CGI, even his head's usually smaller than the rest of them, but he's still big or whatever. Here's the thing that I'm thinking, though, on that show. There's always this code that everybody who loves Masters, they're always like, well, kids don't like what we like from when we were kids. And we got to crack the code. How are we going to crack the code? We got to figure this out. You bring technology into it, there is a 50-50 shot here for kids because kids are drawn to technology now more than they were when we were young. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we had our Ataris, ColecoVision, eventually Nintendo and Sega and stuff. But really, it's like we grew up on, the fantasy aspect, the sword and sorcery, and they had the sprinkling in of sci-fi and the technology. And in this, that could be how they crack the code of, okay, the technology, like you said, it's magic we haven't learned yet, or it's magic that we're still trying to harness or whatever. That's our technology. So in that way, it's like, okay, you're introducing it to a new generation and giving that grounding to it. It could actually take with these kids. And I never actually thought of it until we had that little moment of talking. But I'm like, it might work with my kids because my kids love video games like crazy. They will play with toys, but they also love their video games. So, yeah, that might, cross fingers, because everybody who has a kid would love their kid to embrace what they loved when they were a kid and be able to geek out with them, and share that experience.
Yep.
So, that actually might be it. So I'm very interested to see how this one plays out.
Well, just judging from the design, the flavor of the show, I just know that my wallet can breathe easy. I'm sure I'm not going to be collecting whatever toys they make of this show. And frankly, the same goes for Masterverse, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the pictures weren't the best quality. I'm going to say that. I don't think they were meant to be sent out like they were, because they looked directly from a PowerPoint, like someone did a quick screenshot.
Yes.
During a presentation.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as Pixel Dan pointed out, first impressions matter, and regardless, they really there needs to be more thought about how this information is going to be revealed, is going to be shown to the public, and they would have been much better off, I feel, like if they were to put something on the official Masters of the Universe Facebook page and go from there.
Well, I know their stockholder meeting normally runs right after Toy Fair. And that's where I think they would have revealed these if New York Toy Fair did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have had a better first impression of these figures with their oversized chopping hand.
Yes. The new Kung Fu grip. Yes.
Because the angles that they used for these toys does make it a little hard to see the detail and the cropping so they would fit on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
This was not the best way to reveal it. And I bet whoever took this screenshot at the beginning of that meeting, they were probably told not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this was a leap that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well,
not sure.
I think this is my personal standpoint, but we have had nothing really but lip service for going on 2 years about anything. We've had Kevin Smith basically he's like the carnival barker when he goes online and he wants to talk about it, but he's not allowed to show anything. He's not allowed to. He gave us at least the transformation music the other week, but he can't show anything. He's got non-disclosure agreements, not even letting him reveal any little thing that he possibly can, other than the cast list and what little they've leaked to this point. And we've known about his series since August of 2019. And then this other show, nothing other than the 2 promo images that they put out, which those were very shadowy because they weren't trying to reveal anything there either. And, it's like we always hear 2000X was the line where the variants killed it off. And I'm like, this feels like if Mattel doesn't at least do something, this is going to be the weight kills it off, because we aren't given anything other than tiny little crumbs to wonder what these things are going to be about. And then on top of that, because of social media, we have people joining groups on Facebook, coming to the groups going, I loved He-Man when I was a kid. They're making 2 new shows. They are, and then they're getting confused at what's what, and there's nobody there to give them a hand other than us as fans. It's not helping. None of that is helping.
Yes, that has been frustrating on the groups.
It's exhausting, and the thing to me is like, okay, you've got to you got to meet us halfway with something, because you can't keep going 2 years on giving us nothing. And we're finally at the point where something's about to happen and it's leaked. And it's obviously not the way they intended it, but it's like, this is what happens when you string people along. They're going to take screen caps of this stuff because they're hungry, just like all the fans are hungry. And they're going to know the fans want to see it. And unfortunately, it's not shown the best way. And I agreed with what Pixel Dan said. That wasn't the greatest way to find out about it and see what we got. But that's how it happened, because we've not had anything for how long? And it's like Mattel can't keep this close to the vest going into 2021, knowing these shows and the toy lines are going to debut. That's going to shoot them in the foot, Well,
and I thought that we were going to get a lot more news and information because of the Masters of the Universe website that they revealed last year.
Mm-hmm.
Except it hasn't, to my, last time I checked, it hasn't been updated since it was revealed.
Yeah.
I'm very underwhelmed in how they're handling this, and they did at PowerCon. We're listening, and it's like what you're saying earlier, David, about showing off things and getting fan input. I don't feel like we're even a part of it, and now's when we should be a part of this stuff. And it's like these toys are already photographed, they're created, they're there, they're
right.
Promotional stills, and I don't know how much you want to follow. I know he's been on the show, Scott Knight. Like he was saying, like those shots imply they're not really going to go back and fix anything. These are really close to being put out onto the market. If
exactly
the case.
That was in a new video, one of his new videos on his channel.
Yeah, and so it's like they're going to hear what they are going to hear about this, and I'd say it was I'd say 50-50, if not maybe 60-40 of people having issues with one thing or another about both of these things.
I heard a lot of negativity about both reveals, but mostly about the Masterverse figures. And yes, I just want to echo that is the most frustrating thing to me, is the lack of opportunity for the that Mattel's offering fans to give them that input before the product is to a point where it's going to show up on the shelf and there's no time left for any changes to be made.
And the other thing too is, even if Toy Fair was going to happen and they could show it off there, it's like Mattel couldn't have at least gone, hey, Toy Fair would have been this week, let's put something out like we normally would, instead of doing what they did where it's an investors thing. I've said it a couple times and I'll say it again. Like, I felt like when Classics was going on, there was a certain amount of the fans really could say, hey, what about this and what about that? And they would try to at least institute certain things to let the fans know we're listening. In this, where there's no other media outlet than social media here to talk about stuff, and we don't get to see it until now. It's like, thanks. It really feels like it's a corporate thing more than it was like a family thing, and I'm kind of bummed out by that aspect of it right now, where Masters never felt corporate to me. Masters always felt kind of like I'm coming home every time I get to the brand again. And this time around, it's just kind of like, oh, I feel removed from a lot of what's happening, because I feel like we're in a vacuum with number one, the quarantine, but number two, just in general, the way that Mattel is doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I'm just. It's like, right. I'm happy that they're doing something, because Lord knows, I want there to be Masters on the shelf, just like Ghostbusters is there, Transformers is there, G.I. Joe supposedly is supposed to be there. And that's a joke in a couple different ways if you listen to the theme song. But then there's Masters. Yeah, it's like I feel like they all should be there. But then there's like I feel very much like it's so distant from me now, the way it's set up. It's like, it is a strange thing to see what they're doing and go like, this is Mattel now versus Mattel then,
Yeah, part of it is the experience we had with Classics for all those years with Scott, giving us the videos, going on the groups and answering fan questions. We had a lot of direct input with Mattel. Now, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
They have a Facebook page, and that's great that they'll post up some image or some video every now and then. It may be, but of course, the thing with that is, I feel like it's almost the illusion of
that we care,
communication with the fans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if just a little nitpick for me is when it's frustrating when I see pictures of the toys on the Facebook page, and like He-Man's armor will be upside down, or things like that. there'll be these mistakes. And I'm thinking, well, shouldn't it be somebody who actually cares about, knows about the toys or cares about the toys? Shouldn't that be the person, to be giving us this content?
Back.
Yeah.
In some ways, yeah. I actually do miss feeling like there's somebody who wants to address our concerns and who wants to at least keep in touch, because I feel like there's nobody trying to even do that much right now. Like if there was somebody who's actually giving the olive branch to anybody to try to keep in touch, it's David. Adult Collector, he's out there. He's trying to give you as much news as possible in any way, shape, or form, versus Mattel is just kind of like, okay, we're and I'm not trying to turn it into a Mattel bashing thing. That wasn't my intent,
Sure.
but I just genuinely have that feeling of, like it's more, this is how they want to do it, and it doesn't make sense to us as fans, and it really does give me that. Should I be a fan of this iteration then? And it's like I feel I have to be, because I don't want them to say, oh, we're taking it away for 20 more years. But the other part of me is like, but you're not really helping me like what you're doing, because you're not really giving me anything about what you're doing. And what I find out, it's that whole, when I find out what you did, it's like, oh, why'd you do that? Why do you got to be that guy? Like, honestly, I'm curious to see what the new figures are for the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe one, because I think it will be an interesting line depending how they do the new designs, because He-Man's a really dark-looking character now, and that is a little odd to see, because I'm used to him being either in golds or reds or silvers, depending on which version from Thunder Punch, Battle Armor, Flying Fist from when we were young. And now it's like he's black and gray, and hints of glowing parts on his suit that it's like an Eternia war.
He almost looks something like a ninja or something. I'm not sure what they're going for.
Well, that's why.
Well, that would go with the karate hands.
Yeah. Well, that's the other line. That's the problem. We got the other line.
Is that true? Smacking Beastman around?
And of course, you're referring to Skeletor.
Feed him to Cringer?
Yeah.
Of course, you're referring to the Masterverse Skeletor figure. He's got those flat hands, which,
And evil-lyn, too, had the one flat hand.
I don't get that. I mean, I guess it's like a spell casting or a shooting, a spell or shooting energy from them, but it's so, like, you could also wave hello or aloha or whatever you want to do. It's very, or like if they're in Canada, hi, the Mounties, the way they do it.
Hi.
It's exactly. Hey, how you doing? Hey, but I don't understand the thoughts behind why they're doing it. And there's a part of me going, maybe it makes sense when you watch the show, but it's like the show's 5 months away. I don't know how many months away. They said summer 2021. That's a vague idea. We have a basic idea of where it's going to be, but not what month.
It could be June, July, or August.
And that's
it's going to be September 20th. Technically, that's still the summer. That's the last day of summer. They'll give it to us.
I don't know. I mean, the new look is interesting with the He-Man and the Mask. The other one for Revelation, I got to be honest. I felt like what Kevin Smith was saying, where we aren't going to get a major overhaul of the designs, at least with two key characters. I felt like, it's pretty much, that's verbatim, except for like minor little things. Skeletor never had a cape in Filmation, and He-Man now has the H instead of the cross on his chest. But yeah.
And then evil-lyn looks very different.
Evil-lyn is Korra. She's cosplaying as Korra.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I commented last week that, as soon as I saw these images of these figures, I thought, okay, these are cosplayers dressed up like He-Man characters. Is what it looks like.
I mean, it took me a while to recognize that was evil-lyn. I'm like, who's that character?
Well, yeah, if they didn't give us that second head, then I would be completely thrown off.
Yeah.
You know, the staff is
I thought I
recognizable,
was
but that's
looking at
it.
something from Lord of the Rings.
Right. Well, and notice that Skeletor no longer comes with a sword. He comes with, at least in terms of this photo, right? What we're shown. But I am very intrigued that he comes with the shaping staff, which was featured in the Filmation cartoon series.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm surprised that he's coming with it when really it was evil-lyn that had it.
I assume that I assume the reasoning behind that would be either Skeletor is primarily the one holding the staff in the Revelation series, because again these designs are from that show, and so presumably that accessory, that staff, will be in the show. Or it's kind of like what happened in the classic series, where often you had accessories packaged with figures that were actually intended for other characters. Just because of, like, for instance, evil-lyn, she already has a staff, she already has a second head, 2 extra hands, and a purse, I guess. And so,
Satchel.
Satchel.
I can't help
so
it.
there would be
I hear
room
hangover
for
in my head every time I hear the word purse.
Or we have Or we have someone who is setting up the figures, mix up the different accessories.
Well,
it could be. That
because
could
they don't
absolutely
know.
be true. Yeah.
It could be, but the only thing about that is, unless they put Skeletor's hand on because it is his hand holding the shaping staff, the extra hand at least. But I think, first off, I've seen over the years, now that I've been in the communities, I've seen a lot of people using like Marvel Legends kind of bucks to make their own customs. And when I saw this, the first thing that crossed my mind is, now I know how a Marvel Legends figure would look if they made them as He-Man, because it really has that feel like they're going to have. And even the McFarlane toys that are out right now, because the joints, if you look at the knees, they're the double jointed knees. They're not just the single joint knee like Classics had. And even, I guess you could technically say Origins has that, even though their knee is slightly different. But yeah, you can see the modifications a little bit at least. And yes, they're definitely not a bulky figure from the look of it. They're a more, that's where the 2000X vibe for me kicked in. They felt more athletic than bulky, because 2000X did that too. And in some ways I thought it worked well like Skeletor, but then when I saw He-Man, I'm like, He-Man should be a little bigger, and they did the same thing here. But the articulation is more McFarlane in the torso, because there's not an ab crunch, but there's a cutaway now and stuff. But yeah, I have to see those in the store, and I have to see better images before I even say yes or no. But I think for me, like, it felt like Mattel is saying one thing and doing another with this line too, because they were like, okay, you guys who aren't happy that Classics is dying, well, guess what? Here's Masterverse. And they show silhouettes, and at the time, all I had in my head was like the classic buck, and thinking that they're going to look a little different, but we're going to have... And then when I see that, I'm like, well, that don't work. Maybe the scale works, but it won't look like Classics with the articulation looking the way it does now, and that's like an OCD thing of mine.
I mean, unless they were to... Because, one thing to keep in mind is with Masterverse, it's the idea behind the toy line is you're going to get, it's the evolution of He-Man, so you're going to get all kinds of characters from different parts of this multiverse.
Sure.
So it could be that these figures are going to have this articulation, but that then they'll reuse, they'll bring back some of the old Classics figures. I don't know, but if this is what we're getting, with this new articulation and this look, then I don't know. It feels to me like Classics is dead, but
Yeah.
Let's wait and see. Let's see what they come up with. Let's try to get some opportunity, wait for some opportunity to actually speak with Mattel representatives to ask them, hey, what's going on with these figures, and get their input.
Well, the other thing, real quick, is I know like Marvel Legends put out a Into the Spider-Verse line in the like the beginning of the year. That line came out. It has Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, a Spider-Gwen, and all that. And that line specifically tried to replicate what you saw in the movie, so that when you got it, it didn't feel like a complete Marvel Legends. It actually felt like, okay, this is legit. We're trying to make it look like it came right off the screen, and here they are in your hand as a figure now. So when I look at those figures, I'm trying to think of it in a similar way, where the animation, while Powerhouse has shown through multiple offerings that they have on Netflix right now, that they are amazing with their animation, with action, and I like their overall like character design. You're not going to get as detailed as the vintage line or the classics line. You're going to get a more streamlined look, and that's what I'm looking at these going, okay, these are maybe like, they're going to be less detail, less paint apps, and just more, here's the figure the way it was shown on the actual animated series. And then when they go to something else, like you said, maybe if they go to classics, then classics are maybe going to be more detailed, and they're going to have more paint app on them and some stuff. And then if they go to something else, like if they go 2000X again, they're going to have to go detailed like crazy, because that line was the most detailed we've ever seen them, with a lot of the parts on their costumes and everything. So I'm kind of almost grading that one on a curve, because I really feel they're trying to capture the style of the animation instead of worrying about detail and all that for this.
Right.
And it's like capturing the heart of what the style is for the show.
We don't have a lot of information to go off of right now. It's hard to say,
Yeah.
So we'll see.
The one thing I'll say, at least we know they are going all the way back to Filmation for the Revelations, since we do have that shaping staff.
Yeah. Well,
So,
here's a question for both of you based on the Revelation one. I know the one thing that a lot of people were yay or nay about. What do you guys feel about the cross not being the cross, and it's now the Battle Armor H logo from the 80s for his harness?
Just that I'm sick of seeing the cringe-worthy discussion that I see on the Facebook groups about that topic. I mean, it gets into Nazis right away, and then I'm like, delete, 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 delete. Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they went that way with the PC culture and the cancel culture, but it's always been on He-Man's chest. It goes a lot further back than 1940s. It comes from medieval times.
Yep.
I don't understand why they have to say you cannot have the red cross there.
Well, and
But again, it goes with society today, where they're canceling things that have been around for a while, whether it was racist or anything else, trying to be politically correct.
Well, it's of course, a discussion that must have taken place in Mattel among the designers, and who knows, maybe they decided to change things up for other reasons. I mean, we don't know exactly what was discussed, but we know that some group of people made a decision that let's give them a different look again.
Well, just from my perspective, I was, that's why I was asking the question. I figure what they're doing isn't necessarily cancel culture. I honestly think what they're trying to do is He-Man had that as his sigil or his logo insignia, whatever you want to call it, from the second variation from the 80s. And they kept using it. I mean, heck, it's on Thunder Punch, it's on Flying Fist, it's on Battle Armor, and it was also on the Dragon Walker. But they never followed up with it. And then 2000X had the asterisks, which made people go, why did they even do that? Why couldn't we have had simple or H or whatever? Now that they're doing it, it's like, I think it's their chance to go, this is now going to be He-Man's. Like the S is for Superman, you know, or in that way. I think that's what they're trying to do with it. But it's that whole thing of, once again, Kevin Smith, you said it was going to feel like Filmation. So the fact that when everything else looks pretty darn close to Filmation, and then that's different, it's like, you're killing me. Like, okay, either you do Filmation, and I understand that they might take liberties with the design because they're making it a different company doing the animation and stuff. But then it's like you take the cross away from that, and then it's like, okay, so now we got the H, but it looks weird on that harness to me.
Well, yeah. To me, it reminds me of what's happening with Origins, where they're giving us this hyper, retro look. They look like the vintage figures, but at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, that's not He-Man's shield. That's not his face. That, people are, the people involved are putting their stamp on the designs of those toys. And I feel like in terms of I assume the animators who are working on the show, perhaps they're doing the same thing. They're saying, well, let's change things up. And then, of course, it's a chicken or the egg thing. Is the Mattel team then saying, okay, well, we need to make toys out of these designs, okay? Or is it that the Mattel team gave them some designs and said, okay, we want them to look like this, and so the animators then took those designs and animated them? I'm not sure which came first.
I'm not sure either. I know on the one time when Kevin Smith was talking about the show, he actually said that he saw the toy designs based on their ideas. So maybe just throwing a shot in the dark, I'm guessing the Mattel probably had to approve the designs the animators were doing, but maybe the animators were the ones that actually pushed one direction or another, possibly. But I don't know, because it's weird. It's like, okay, Origins has the cross, but then Masterverse won't, and then the other one has like that whole logo is like it's enveloping. There's a whole other thing going on. It's like that one to me is like I got nothing there. But and then now Mega Constructs is switching it up, because now Mega Constructs with their Advent calendar He-Man that has the H on it too on his typical belt. On the harness, I should say. So it's like, it feels like they're retrofitting it into the line now to follow whatever Revelation's doing. That's just, I don't know, that's just my take on it.
Well, with the Mega Constructs, they have the Iron Cross on, I think it's 4 of the different He-Man. I know on the Battle Armor He-Man, they went with the H. It's probably just switching it up for the Advent calendar that they teased.
I'm just curious if this is like from here on out, this is going to be how, and it's up to them. Like I said, it feels more corporate. Like we would be like, well, what about the cross? And they'd be like, well, this is what we want to do. Okay. But yeah,
we're going to be like, well, okay, we just won't buy it.
I
don't know.
We only got 20% of the toy sales.
Well, that's 1% less, or whatever percentage I represent. I mean, it's either going to sell or it won't, and that's the ultimate bottom line, right? And then when they get those numbers, that's going to determine what their course of action is.
I think it's good. As much as I'd like to give credit where credit's like, I'd love to give credit to the people that are going to be buying this stuff, to anybody out there in the public that wants to pick it up. But just from the groups, I can already tell, if you're not already tuned into what's happening, it is going to be a heck of a thing to sift and weed through. Because you have people that love the Origins, and then they're complaining about, well, they're going to take Origins away to go to Revelation, and then Revelation's going to be out there, and then people are like, well, what about the other one? And if you have 3 different styles already out there, I mean, yeah, like we were complaining about variants in the 2000X line. Now it's just going to be too much, just choking everybody to death, you know?
You know, I think what I'll do is to help. I will put links to all the different Facebook groups in the description of the video for this podcast. So people will be able to navigate to the Masterverse Facebook group and the group for the new Netflix cartoon. And of course, there's one for the Revelation series. There's a group for that as well.
I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Remember to check out Origins and Mega Constructs in all your local Walmarts, Targets, or wherever you buy toys. Until next time, good journey.
And this is Shawn Skvarna. Thanks for having me back again. Sorry, it's going to be my last episode because I painted myself into the corner too many times. But anyway, yeah, it's always fun to be back and talk shop with everybody. So, yeah, until next time, good journey, everybody.
And this is David Clark, owner of adultcollector.org. And yeah, it was wonderful talking shop with everybody, talking toys. I will put a bunch of links in the video description to the various groups that we talked about today. And but yeah, until next time, stay safe and good journey, everybody.